Capitola, a small, sunny California coastal town, was known for its quiet streets and serene beaches, where the sound of waves lapping the shore was the soundtrack to everyday life. However, during the scorching heat of that summer, a chill began to spread through the narrow streets and quaint houses. The blue sky, once a symbol of freedom and tranquility, began to harbor a dark secret. It was on an August morning that the first reports emerged. Stunned residents described disturbing encounters with birds that suddenly seemed possessed by an inexplicable fury. Seagulls, normally seen as part of the coastal scenery, were now diving towards the people, their wings cutting through the air with unbridled aggression. Ravens, known for their silent cunning, now filled the air with raucous cackles and violent swoops. No one knew what caused this change. Some whispered about the extreme heat affecting the animals' behavior. Others, more superstitious, mentioned ancient legends about the evil hidden in the winds that blew from the ocean. But as the days dragged on and the attacks intensified, a growing sense of fear settled in the community. Behind Capitola's apparent normalcy, something was awakening in the shadows of the sunny sky, something that would turn the summer of 1961 into a dark chapter in the history of this coastal California town. As reports multiplied, a disturbing pattern emerged among Capitola residents. Seagulls, known for gliding gracefully over coastal waters, were now diving like arrows towards unsuspecting passers-by. Their shrill screams rent the air in a way that seemed to portend a dark omen. Ravens, nocturnal creatures that had previously been rarely seen during the day, now filled the sky with a cacophony of high-pitched caws and erratic flights. What alarmed residents most was the lack of pattern in the attacks. There was no apparent provocation, no clear reason for the birds' behavior. They simply acted as if possessed by an inexplicable urgency, their prey chosen at random from the townspeople. Some witnesses swore they saw the birds prowling their homes like sentinels from a distorted kingdom, waiting for the right moment to launch their frenzied attacks. Mystery hung over Capitola like a dark cloud, obscuring the radiant sun that had long been synonymous with peace and tranquility. The atmosphere of fear and bewilderment grew each day as residents tried to understand what had turned their winged neighbors into nightmarish creatures whose presence was now a constant threat on the serene horizon of the coastal town. As the days dragged on, the bird attacks became more audacious and unpredictable. Seagulls, with their white wings stained with gray, were no longer limited to beaches. They dove from the open sky, breaking windows and scratching roofs with sharp claws. Residents who dared to walk the streets were targets of sudden attacks, their hair pulled and their clothes torn by frantic beaks. Ravens, black-plumaged creatures that once seemed to watch silently from above, now swooped like arrows toward yards and porches. Their hoarse caws echoed between the walls of houses as they invaded unceremoniously, leaving a trail of destruction and panic wherever they landed. Some residents reported being awakened in the middle of the night by the sound of wings beating against the windows, as if the shadows themselves had come to life and were seeking revenge for centuries of forgetfulness. The once quiet and peaceful city now turned into a silent battlefield where the creatures of the air became ruthless aggressors. There was no safe place, not even indoors were the residents safe, as the birds found gaps in human defenses and infiltrated with a determination that bordered on the supernatural. Capitola found herself facing a living enigma, where each new day brought with it the dark promise of more attacks, more terror, and more unanswered questions about what had turned her skies into a theater of chaos and agony. As the bird attacks intensified, Capitola transformed into a scene of horror that defied human understanding. The seagulls, in their inexplicable frenzies, not only attacked with ferocity, but also left macabre traces of their presence. Courtyards and gardens were transformed into battlefields where partially digested anchovy carcasses were scattered like trophies from a grotesque war. Residents woke up to find their properties scarred with claws and bites, silent witnesses to the winged violence that now ravaged the city. Broken windows, overturned furniture and beak marks in the corners of the walls were visual testimony of an attack that did not follow human logic, but rather a strange and disordered dance imposed by the birds. Panic spread like a contagious disease among the residents of Capitola, each facing the agonizing dilemma of how to protect their home and family from enemies once considered harmless. The sun that bathed the city in its golden light now seemed like a cloak of darkness, where every shadow hid the potential for a new attack, a new moment of terror that would leave irreparable physical and emotional scars. In the minds of residents, seagulls and crows were no longer simple creatures of nature, but characters in a twisted tale of survival and loss. As the mystery surrounding the origins of the bird's behavior deepened, the city found itself trapped in a nightmare that challenged the very essence of its tranquility and security. As fear grew and the city desperately searched for answers, scientists and biologists dove into investigating the unexplained phenomenon that had turned Capitola into a winged battlefield. Samples from birds captured during the attacks revealed a disturbing finding. In the stomachs of seagulls and crows, a previously unknown seaweed was present. This algae, apparently harmless in itself, produced a toxin that infiltrated the birds' nervous systems. The effects were devastating: amnesia that disoriented the birds, transforming their normally peaceful behavior into frantic, purposeless attacks. Seizures, previously unknown among Capitola birds, now became a terrifying reality that explained the aggressive and seemingly irrational behaviors. The discovery brought with it relief mixed with an even deeper sense of horror. As scientists worked to understand how a simple seaweed could trigger such chaos, Capitola residents looked up to the sky with a mix of awe and fascination. What was once considered an idyllic setting had been transformed into a nightmarish laboratory, where nature, in its unknown complexity, revealed its ability to become both beneficent and cruel. The coastal town would not be the same after the summer of 1961. The memory of the bird attacks and the sinister discovery behind them would echo for generations, reminding everyone that beneath the serene surface of everyday life lies a world of mysteries that they can turn out to be as beautiful as they are terrible. The revelation of the cause behind the bird attacks did not bring immediate relief to the Capitola community. On the contrary, it triggered a new wave of reflection and fear among residents, who now viewed the blue, sunny skies with a mixture of fascination and apprehension. What was once a symbol of freedom and tranquility had transformed into a scene filled with memories of overwhelming attacks and a cause still shrouded in mystery. The confirmation that a simple seaweed could trigger such chaos amplified the community's sense of vulnerability. The streets, once walked with nonchalance, were now watched with increasing nervousness. Every shadow passing across the sky was a reason for nervous glances and racing hearts, as residents tried to adapt to a new normal where nature was no longer a reliable ally. City psychologists reported an increase in cases of anxiety and trauma among residents, whose lives had been transformed by the birds' uncontrolled presence. The children, once playing carefree on the white sand beaches, now looked up to the sky with eyes full of fear, fearing a return of the days of terror that had marked their memories. Capitola, once a haven of seaside serenity, had become a symbol of how the fragile line between tranquil everyday life and nightmare can be crossed. The sky, now tinged with the erratic shadows of birds that were once seen as part of the landscape, remained a constant reminder of how nature can turn into an unpredictable and implacable adversary. As the city sought to recover from the events that had profoundly marked it, the presence of birds in the sky remained a grim reminder that, even in a seemingly untouched paradise, terror can lurk in the depths of every human experience. The summer of 1961 left an indelible mark on Capitola's consciousness, serving as a grim reminder that beneath the seemingly serene beauty of nature can reside an unfathomable and sometimes vengeful force. What began as an inexplicable phenomenon of bird attacks has turned into a saga of insight into the fragile and complex relationship between humanity and the natural environment. Residents, once so familiar with the gentle sounds of waves and salty sea breezes, now saw the world around them with new eyes. Every seagull that flew over the horizon was a reminder of how life can change suddenly, how the harmony of nature can be disrupted by forces that escape our understanding. The seaweed that triggered the event still echoed in the minds of those who witnessed the chaos. She embodied not only the fragility of wildlife, but also its ability to transform into an agent of destruction when the right conditions align. Nature, so often celebrated for its beauty and serenity, has also revealed itself as an entity that can turn against those who inhabit it, like a narrative of revenge written in sea currents and coastal winds. Capitola's story became a morality tale about mutual respect and understanding the complexities of the natural world. The community has learned the hard way that even the most familiar elements of its environment can hide dangerous and unpredictable secrets. The lesson was clear: nature is a force that deserves not only admiration, but also deep respect and constant vigilance. As Capitola slowly recovered from the traumatic events of the summer of 1961, her scars remained a silent reminder that, in a world where the line between the benign and the threatening can be blurred, wisdom lies in humility in the face of the wonders and dangers that lie ahead. Nature can offer. As the sun set over Capitola, staining the sky with the gold and orange hues that were once so welcoming, the birds continued their erratic flight. Their shadows crossed the horizon in an ominous manner, reminding residents that the summer of 1961 was not just a passing memory, but a profound transformation in the city's physical and psychological landscape. The community watched in resigned silence as the seagulls and crows, once seen as benign companions of the coast, now became ambivalent symbols. They were not just creatures of nature, but messengers of a dark chapter that had been written in the skies and streets of Capitola. The last evocative image was a silent testament to the fragility of harmony between man and nature. The birds, in their silent and disorderly flight, were not just inhabitants of the coastal environment, but guardians of a history that defied human understanding. They represented not only the physical terror they had brought, but also the fear of the unknown, of that which is beyond human control and rational explanations. Capitola, now marked by this saga of terror and discovery, ended its summer with an aura of caution and renewed respect for nature. The birds, once celebrated for their grace and freedom, now hovered over the city like sentinels of a mystery that would never be fully understood. They reminded residents that beneath the apparent beauty of each sunny day lies a world of shadows and secrets that deserves to be respected and feared. So, as daylight slowly faded, Capitola faced the future with a new awareness of her place within the vast and unpredictable fabric of nature. Birds, now seen through a different lens, would continue to fly through the skies, no longer as simple creatures, but as persistent symbols of a lesson that would never be forgotten.